Twisted Tea and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Better Brands Incorporated. Know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Twisted Tea's original hard iced tea in hand. It's important to remember drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and your friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Twisted Tea salutes all sober skippers who take a pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
Realtree has always had a connection to the fishing industry and the outdoor lifestyle. In 2016, Realtree expanded on the traditional business of creating the world's most effective camouflage patterns to create a fishing brand and family of patterns designed to connect the woods to the water and strengthen the bond between the two worlds. We couldn't be more excited to be working with the industry's top brands, retailers, and anglers to continue our growth, and we hope that you will join us. Enjoy Realtree fishing patterns inshore, offshore, on the lake, or at the dock. Learn more about the extensive line Realtree fishing patterns, apparel, gear, and more at Realtree.com. Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome back to Trilogy Outdoors, and we're going to talk fins, fur, and feathers as we do every week on the show, and this week we are going to stick more to the fins, although it is the time of the year where we got all kinds of stuff going on. I was talking to DNR today. I mean, they're going to be in the woods this weekend, and deer season is here. It's time to go get that velvet buck if you want to get one in it.
I was just checking my trail cameras earlier, Inglis, and I saw a buddy of mine on my trail camera with his bow. Who I didn't know was there.
Wait a minute.
Until I saw him on my trail camera.
Is he still a buddy? We'll find out this afternoon.
Yeah. If he kills that buck I've been sending him pictures of, he will no longer be a buddy.
We'll find out this afternoon.
He will be an acquaintance.
You know, the other thing this time of the year, obviously, is that crazy late summer wahoo bite. And, you know, fellas in Georgetown, the Blue Water Fishing Club in particular has started an offshore wahoo tournament that they host in August. And it's been incredible, the numbers of fish that have been caught there in the last couple summers. And I brought in, we tried to find some experts, some wahoo experts, and a lot of them don't want to talk about what they do. But we did. I snagged one up and grabbed him over here and brought him in to the Trilogy Outdoor Studio to talk some wahoo fishing. And that is my good buddy Adam Brown from Brown's Custom Canvas. Anybody that fishes here in the Carolinas has seen, what's the name of your boat? What do y'all call your team?
Midnight Rider.
That's right, the Midnight Rider. Adam is an incredible wahoo fisherman, and I would probably venture to guess that you're more into the high-speed stuff these days, aren't you? Or are you a mix of the two?
Yeah, a little mix. A little both.
I heard you were really good at the high-speed stuff. We actually Lucas and I tried to recruit him for our team, and I texted him and called him, and no responses. But it turned out that we did find out that you were out there on another boat fishing with somebody else the day we were trying to recruit you for. But Steven, another, loves wahoo fishing, actually caught one yesterday.
I do. I love it. There's something about, to me, it's a little bit like a mystery fish. You know, I mean, the dolphin are pretty obvious, right? I mean, you know when that big first wave is rolling in. I mean, it's just obvious as it can be, because all of a sudden it goes from like 5 to 6 fish to like 30, 40 fish in a day that you can put in the boat easy. And it doesn't matter. They eat everything. Wahoo are a little different. It's like, you know, they tend to work around the full moon. They tend to be sort of solo hunters, but this time of year, all the way through the fall, we'll start to pack up a little bit, and 4 and 5s and 6s, and so you can get some multiple knockdowns. And they're just a little more of a mystery fish, and when you see that tiger stripe roll in by the boat, it's always something special. They're all lit up and beautiful, and it's always something special.
I think they are the most appropriately named fish out there, because there is a lot of wahoos when screaming when you get hooked up to one. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. I think there's a number of fish out there that I like to target. I mean, really, this time of year, you get that flounder bite that's starting to get really good. You get that wahoo bite that's starting to get really good, and I'm always a bottom fisherman. And I mean, to me, bottom fishing offshore is an underrated art. I mean, it really is an underrated art. Okay, and we'll get to that. But when it comes down to trolling, there's a few things that I really enjoy. I love to troll. We were talking about this earlier, Inglis. I love to troll that sunrise and that sunset. If you're ever out there at sunset, the sunset bite's great too. I mean, the yellowfin sunset bite used to be the way to go.
Right.
When we had yellowfin off the Carolinas. But nowadays, that 2 or 3 hour window right at sunrise, I love trolling. And then I'm done. I'm done. I mean, there's a lot of people that'll troll out there all day long. They'll pound that pavement all through the noon hours, and they may pick up a fish or two, but not me. I don't want to do that. I want everybody to be pulling on rods all day long.
So you go to the bottom.
So you go to the bottom.
I used to be that guy.
Yeah. But I mean, you can pick up wahoo at first light. I mean, you can pick them up, and you can pick them up strong, and then the minute that, I don't know, 9:30 or 10 o'clock rolls around and the bite starts slowing down, I'm done with it. And I'm on to something else. But focusing on that wahoo bite at first light is incredibly fun, and I think there's a lot of people that really miss out on it. And I think the reason is because it requires a little bit of thought and it requires a little bit of preparation that your traditional trolling practices don't incorporate.
That's
right. I mean, and Adam, you can speak to this certainly probably a lot better than I can, but all of your I spent all of last week thinking about where we're going to go, what we're going to do, what structure we're going to target, what time we're going to get out there, how many baits I need to switch over from mono to wire, whether or not we're going to be pulling meat, whether or not we're going to be pulling artificials, whether or not we're going to be pulling a mix, whether or not we're going to have plugs in the water because plugs swim across other baits, and it's just there's a lot to it that doesn't happen when you're talking about mahi fishing.
Nope. And I the one thing about a wahoo, and you just brought it up, I mean, they can make you look like the biggest idiot. The one time you sit there and go, oh, I want to put that black and that red out with wire, and I'm going to put the pink out on fluoro, and the wahoo's going to hit that black and red, and then the wahoo keeps hitting your pink, and it's like, what in the world? I mean, I love wahoo fishing. I this year has really been my year for concentrating and doing a little bit more high-speed trolling. I still like targeting, meat fishing, as we say. I fish a lot with plugs. I think cedar plugs. I think diving artificials are great baits. We'll really go into depth on baits and such, but I really think that the factors that really pay off really big dividends with wahoo is finding bait.
You got to find the bait, stay with the bait. Eventually that fish is going to come.
All right, so I want to focus on that for a minute. I'm glad y'all started there, right? Because yesterday I'm of the same mindset. You find a bait, and eventually you find a fish. The bonita yesterday were everywhere at the break. I mean, they were just everywhere. The birds were pile driving them, on top of the bonita, and they were, everything. I mean, it was all coming together, right? And I bet you I made 24 circles, 1 mile circles around that giant school of bonita. Never got a strike.
Not even from a bonita.
Not even from a bonita. But I mean, these are the
little ones.
The little guys, that the wahoo should be crushing. Right? That the wahoo should be underneath crushing. And maybe that's why. Maybe there was so much bait.
They didn't want yours.
They didn't want ours. But I mean, we circled and circled and circled because I had the same mindset. Guys, there's so much bait here. The wahoo are going to be here. Never caught one there. Where we caught ours at, which by the way was at first light. When we caught ours, no bait. Nowhere near it. And I'm starting, in my mind now, I'm starting to think the wahoo that were around that 15, 20 acre pile of bonita had already eaten breakfast.
Yeah, they were done.
Right?
Yep.
They had already eaten breakfast. If you find one that's hungry that hadn't found the bait yet, he's willing to eat.
Yep.
At least that's my thought. I don't know. Adam, what do you
I agree with you.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. And not moving to I mean, let's talk about bait. Like, what are they feeding on out there? I mean, here's the thing.
Bonita. They've got to be eating bonita.
All right, so they're eating bonita. Somebody else told me they love.
There was a bunch of flying fish out there too.
There was.
I heard the flyers have been incredible all summer. Now I saw some. When was I out last? It's been a while, but like 10 miles off the beach. we hit flyers.
They're getting in, and there's millions of little micro flyers. You know, I mean, you're seeing the normal size flyers, but the little, I don't know, what's that, 3-inch, the little 3-inch micro flyers. I mean, schools of hundreds of them scattering across the water yesterday. So, I mean, there's plenty of bait off the coast right now.
The little babies, the little baby flyers.
Yeah.
Now, I also heard they love vermilion. I heard they love it, all the bottom species, and that's why they'll stack up on the break and on the ledge. You know, and obviously, if you looked at any pictures lately, and I think Lucas mentioned to you, but if you've looked at any pictures lately of anybody, Carson and your mate Carson, they had 5 or 6 or 7 Wahoo, and they had 2 big king mackerel.
Yeah.
It seems like all the boats are catching big king mackerel along with the Wahoo.
Well, that's what I mean, really, isn't a Wahoo just like a glorified king mackerel?
Oh, no, it tastes way better. But it is. You're right. It probably is.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like, I mean, everybody thinks of a Wahoo like a, you know, this glorified blue water species, and it's really not. I mean, you can catch them in 120 feet of water.
Yep.
And I've never caught one. Adam, tell me if you have, but I've never caught one more than 220, 230 feet of water. I mean, I can't think of the last time I caught a Wahoo in 250 feet of water.
800 feet.
Yep.
800 foot, you caught one.
Yep.
Good for you. That's the first time I've heard that.
I would never go
He was
targeting
lost.
them there.
He was lost, though.
Yeah, but on the break, the water was so dirty. So I had to go find some good water. That's where you got to find some good, clean water.
All right, so you have, is this one fish that was lost or a whole school? Did you catch more than one?
That we
This is last week, by the way.
not last week.
Okay, a different time.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
No, got into a school of them out there, and it's crazy.
So,
In 800 foot of water.
and is this an area around here where the 800 feet of water is close to the break or way off the break? Because there's a couple of places.
Close to the break.
Okay, so close to the break.
Right on your Seymour numbers out there on your Seymour.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. You know,
By the way, I would suggest Seymour to anybody. Seymour is incredible, and the new Garmin blue map or whatever with the contour. Oh,
Yeah.
it's cheating.
it's crazy.
It's cheating.
It is cheating.
Unless they decide to sponsor this podcast.
I know, I'll
point
shut up.
At which point in time they're great.
Yeah.
But it's cheap, man. I spent 25 years, more than that. I've spent a long time
Logging numbers.
logging numbers, you know, with little hand. I've still look at that second drawer on the left there, Inglis. Second drawer on the left. He's going to be pulling out a piece of paper. It's actually like stapled, should be like a stapled.
Oh, good Lord! Look at that.
All right, so I mean that's one of 1,000 of pieces of paper that I have written down with. Is that Lorenz or still or GPS coordinates?
These are Loran.
All right, so he's got a stack of
Yep.
papers in his hand with Lorenz and with handwritten notes beside it of just like dive after dive after dive that I've made on C-fan after C-fan after C-fan, you know, with one lionfish on it, you know, one rock that's got a grouper underneath it. And I've got every single number that you can imagine, thousands of numbers off the coast that I personally went down on. And then
But for $499,
you suckers go spend $499 and ruin it.
you can have all my numbers.
It just makes me so mad. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, technology comes along, but it just makes me so mad.
You're spot on. I mean, it's crazy. Like Lucas plugged that Blue G or whatever it is that Garmin uses. What do they call it? He plugged that new disc in, and then overlaid the ledges and everything, and it was like a footprint. I mean, you're like looking at the bottom. It was like being down there diving. And one of the spots that we found that he did really good a couple times earlier in the summer, and we did good in a tournament, and actually we had Andrew work with us, was a spot that was away from any of the commercial numbers or any numbers that I have. It wasn't even near it, but it showed up as a mound, you know, maybe 20, 30 foot, but it showed up as a mound. And when we hit that ledge, we got 2 strikes from Wahoo. Got one to the boat and lost one, but man, those maps and having good numbers. And that's why I was saying I really, you know, I want to get into water temperature. I want to talk about the moon. I want to talk about all that. But, you know, I really, if I'm going out there just to Wahoo fish, I I don't pay a lot of attention to the temperature unless it's like, okay, there's a real good breakdown at McDougal or down south at Georgetown Hole, or there's a real good break up at McMarlin. There's a good temperature break somewhere in there. Then maybe I'll concentrate on that area, but I don't try to find like, oh, there's a half degree temperature change as much with Wahoo. I mean, you can, I mean, you do it a lot more than I do. So
What are you looking for?
I want to hear, I want to hear what you're looking for.
What are you looking for?
Let's talk about it. I mean, this can be, what are you going to look for to start off with?
A slight temperature, not no 71 to 74, maybe 71 to 71 and a half, 72, like a slight
change.
I'm looking more in a good chlorophyll. I'm looking at the water.
Right.
So you like chlorophyll as a factor for Wahoo. And is there is there a particular, it's just the best you can get, or is there any particular chlorophyll that you look at that say, well, that's the break-off point, that's where I'm not fishing versus that's where I'm fishing?
Yeah.
It's classified in ratings, right, with chlorophyll, like as a number, right? Isn't there a number?
Mm-hmm. So
what's good and what's bad? I mean, or is that not how it works? You just say we're looking for the best chlorophyll.
best, yeah. Good, clean, good water.
Clean, clear
Cleaner
water.
to clear the water, the higher the chlorophyll, correct?
Well, that's what same. We do the same thing diving. I mean, when you're looking for good, clean water, you're looking for
Oxygen.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. I mean, you got good DO, you got good clean water. It's nice and blue. To the north yesterday, which is traditionally when you've had a lot of rain, the north has got a lot better chlorophyll and a lot better visibility as far as diving goes than to the south, because the south for us, meaning Georgetown South, for those of you listening and out in radio land, Georgetown would be south for us here. We've got a lot of fresh water that pours out of Georgetown. If you look on Google Earth, I mean, you can even see that little brown plume off of Georgetown pouring fresh water out into the ocean. So when you have a lot of fresh water, you want to fish up to at least I do. I want to fish up to the north rather than to the south. But yesterday was exactly opposite. To the north yesterday was green. To the south yesterday was blue. And to the south is where we caught our fish. To Adam's point, I mean, better chlorophyll to the south yesterday. That's where we caught our wahoo.
Yep. You got to go where they're at, right?
Yep. Did you go to you were at the Scarp area?
I was everywhere yesterday.
Did you really go all the way south?
Oh, yeah, I went everywhere yesterday. Yeah, we started south of the hole and ended up north of the Scarp. And actually came, and believe it or not, and I wouldn't tell the guys I rode with unless they listen to this podcast, but actually ended up going way back to where we started in the afternoon because I ran over a ledge that just looked beautiful that I had not marked. For bottom fishing. And I said that morning, I said, I'm coming back here this afternoon. It was just that we were like 24 miles away from it when we ended up in the so they paid for a little extra fuel yesterday because I had to go check out that. But it paid off because we got a hogfish.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you caught that one on hook and line too, and that's pretty impressive. I've never been on the boat with a hook and line hogfish caught.
Never seen one in the gazillion years of offshore fishing and diving. Never seen one caught on hook and line. Wes Covington from here in Pawleys Island, who owns Marsh Tackey. Yeah, he owns Marsh Tackey. That's carbon fiber outriggers and gaffs and all that stuff. Makes great stuff. He holds the South Carolina state record, which I think is like 21.6.
And yours was 16
for hogfish. Ours was not. I texted him last night and I said, Wes, and I sent him a picture, just the picture of the hogfish, and he was not happy for a little while until I texted him back. I said, nah, he's not going to make 21.
No, but that's an incredible catch. What'd you catch him on?
Believe it or not, squid.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just an incidental hungry fish. When we were diving a lot and we had a lot of surface interval, because you're making like 15 dives a day. When you had a lot of surface interval, we'd take one of the extra lobsters laying around and you'd break him up and you'd try to catch a hogfish on hook and line with a crab leg or a lobster leg.
And still never did it.
And never caught them because, every time you clean a hogfish, the only thing I see in their belly is lobster.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be whole lobsters in their belly. And so you think, okay, well, that's all they eat is lobster and crab. And never caught one, even fishing with lobster and crab, never caught one. And I think the problem is you can't get through the red snapper or I mean, everything will eat a lobster, right? So you can't get through anything else to get to the 2 hogfish on a ledge. We're way off of Wahoo. I'm sorry, Adam.
No, keep going. No, that's fine.
I'm learning.
But there's
Yeah, he's listening.
on almost every ledge, on almost every reef, there's 2 hogfish. Now, really spectacular reefs, there's more than that. But almost every ledge, every reef, there's 2 hogfish, especially on patch reef. There's a male and there's a female. Okay, a breeding pair. You kill the male, a new male will move in. I've seen it. It just happens almost immediately. A new male will move in. You kill the male will move, and there won't be any hogfish on that reef. So, best thing to do is kill the male, come back the next week, kill the next male, come back the next week, kill the next male. But anyway, how did we get on the hogfish and off of Wahoo?
Easy. We were talking about you found a spot, so you had to go an extra 24 miles back to that spot to go bottom fishing.
Anyway.
So why don't we go an extra 24 minutes and talk about that bottom fishing? I'm okay with it, but no, we did get off of it, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Bottom fishing was great. Bottom fishing is my thing. I love Wahoo fishing. I love it. Bottom fishing is my thing. I like to try to think about what the bottom fish are doing, how they're moving inshore in the fall and in the winter, and moving back offshore and deeper water in the summertime. But
I'm helping our buddies right now from CCA. They're somebody wants to reopen the Georgetown chapter that they said they were heard was closed. So I'm sending somebody Scott Whitaker's number. Sorry.
No, you're good. But one thing we do need, that can unite trolling fishermen and bottom fishermen together. One thing we need to mention before we get back to Wahoo, and I want to get back to Wahoo, Adam.
Yep.
NOAA's proposed rule.
Yep.
Okay, we talked about this on last week's podcast a little bit. Federal overreach, which is not an uncommon thing nowadays. We talked about, David Strickland came on last week's podcast, talked about federal overreach in the national forest and what they're doing with these overly excessive fires in the national forest, wiping clean the game species from the national forest for the sake of the red-cockaded woodpecker and the salamander, flatwood salamander. Right now there's a proposed rule NOAA has that says you cannot take your boat from 0 to 20 miles offshore beyond 10 knots.
Yep.
That's the proposed rule for everybody. We're not talking about commercial fishermen. We're not talking about guys that are running boats, head boats. We're talking about anybody. Every single person. You can't run your boat more than 10 knots because you might hit a whale.
Yep.
You might hit a whale. Now, guys, I don't know anybody.
I don't either.
Anybody in my circle of friends, including y'all, who have spent a long time on the ocean. I don't know anybody that has hit an order.
Have you ever hit a whale?
No.
Never have I hit a whale. And I've hit a lot of things.
So, yes, you have.
I've never hit a whale, and I don't know anybody that has hit a whale. But we're gonna. That's it. What I was telling you last week, Inglis. You know what would solve the possibility of ever hitting a whale? What would solve that is if we just stop fishing. Right? That's what ultimately what they want.
That's what they want.
It's just drive us out of the business of fishing, and that way we won't ever hit a whale.
Yep. So I went digging, and I found the most recent was in February of 2022. Happened in Florida. It was an interaction between a sporty and northern right whale.
How long ago was this?
This was this year in February.
In Florida?
It was catastrophic for the whale. The whale did not survive. Then when you go back further than that, you don't find anything. Only other thing that I found was all in the Northeast, and it was humpbacks. It was more humpbacks.
So I bet that incident is what caused what we're dealing with right now.
Yep.
I guarantee. It's one thing pops up, and then it's going to ruin it for everybody.
That's right.
It's sort of like, banning guns. It would prevent anybody from ever shooting an alien if there was alien life. Really.
Yeah.
What? Seriously.
Yep.
It's craziness, this federal overreach that we're seeing right now. And
my partner's a senator, right?
It's
he doesn't keep his mouth shut.
I don't.
He's good.
It's problematic.
That's why I like working with him.
All right, let's talk about Wahoo.
All right, so let's go back. So we've established pretty much what you want to look for. You like small temperature changes, or are you looking for a bottom that's got some action on it, live bottom? You like to concentrate on areas like that, or what do you? Does the bottom bother you, or does it matter to you?
It does. I just ride around looking for bait, find the bait, hang around it.
What do you mean by bait? You mean bait in the water column, bait on the surface, bait on the bottom?
Above 50.
Okay.
Above 50.
In the water column, above 50. And traditionally, you're talking about any kind of bait, cigar minnows, bonitas?
Yep.
Okay.
Fine fish.
Yep.
Gotcha. Inglis, have we talked about moon phases yet?
No.
Okay. We must have talked about that before the podcast began.
Yeah, we did.
How are you on moon phases?
Like a new moon?
You like a new moon? Either side of it or the new moon?
The new moon.
Yep.
So if you find a nice flat day on the new moon in the fall with some bait.
Somebody's canvas is going to wait till a couple days.
Yeah, that's it. People, they understand.
You're not getting
Exactly.
you're not getting any canvas work.
Yep. You're not getting canvas work done on a new moon. Check the moon schedule before you call him.
So that's different from what I've always heard is like 3 to 4 days before the full moon, and about 3 or 4 days after the full moon is really your prime time for Wahoo. But you're saying a new moon.
In the past, my most successful days was the new moon.
That's good. That's good info. That's good intel for me.
And we were talking about the full moon not being, I mean, I know a lot of people
But then,
that will.
2 days before, 2 days after the full moon is,
it's good too.
yeah.
When you
Say
don't
that's-
have that massive current like
Yep.
you do during a full moon.
That's it.
Which, for those that don't know, that's our full moon. We obviously, all of your currents pick up. You got a lot more motion in the water. If you're bottom fishing, it's a nightmare. Yeah. And it's the same effect trolling. I mean, do you have a preference of, let's say, early or later, or do you pay attention to the major and the minors in the days that you do decide to go?
I do. But like Stephen was saying, right before the sun comes up, if you show up too late, you miss the bite.
That key of getting
You
there
have to
early.
be there early.
Getting there early makes a big difference, and I've always said that.
I think it makes a huge difference. So are you the same way? So you fish for first 3 hours of the day and then you bottom fish, or are you fishing
Yeah, I've
throughout?
gotten to where I'll do that, and then I'll go bottom fishing or
Yeah.
go deep.
Yeah, right.
That's what I was good. We're getting away from Wahoo again, but
We were
where were the swordfish rods yesterday?
we were deep dropping yesterday. We weren't sword fishing. I wanted to go sword fishing, but I'm glad I did not, because it blew up. Man, it was like Lake Atlantic out there until 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and then, God, it blew up nasty.
You would have had that whole way home.
We had it for 48 or 49 miles home, and it was just, it was solid 20, 25 northeast, and, right dead on 90 degrees on the chine. And, of course, I sat in the seat the whole time. Boat did great. We ran 40 miles an hour home, but it was working the steering wheel the whole time to make sure you were down in the trough and then you're up on the peak. So if we'd have had to do it from 100 miles, it would have been miserable. It was miserable for 49 miles.
Well, that's that is normally the normal afternoon weather, and I tell everybody, like, if you want
Every
to go
time.
every afternoon,
Every time this year. Like
every afternoon.
I was telling Andy yesterday, I said, I want one day this year where it's flat in the afternoon on the way home.
Yep, it can be choppy in the morning.
Choppy in the morning's fine.
I don't care.
Yep.
Let it calm down for the ride home.
I want it calm on the ride home every day. I don't care what the ocean looks like, whether it's dead flat in the afternoon. On the way home, as soon as I turn the boat, blows up.
Yep.
Blows up. It's gotten a little irritating. Back to Wahoo fishing.
Hey, Saturday we got our tails whipped there.
Oh, I guarantee you, Saturday you did.
5 foot, 6 foot at 4 seconds.
And what boat are you fishing out of?
I'm my 30 game fish.
Okay. All right. And so we talked about moon phases.
Yep.
I'm trying to steer us back because we
That's fine.
jumped all over the place.
Keep steering us back
I'm
there.
going to steer us back to Wahoo. So we've talked about when you prefer to fish. You said you do pay attention to majors and minors. Okay, where I I hear people talking about majors and minors all the time. I've never paid attention to majors and minors until like this year when y'all started talking about it, and I started sort of looking to see if any of my catching has coincided with majors and minors.
Yep.
Y'all really believe in this?
I do. I'll tell you, when we fished that last tournament, the last day of the Wahoo series, no, not the last day of the Wahoo series, the last day of the camo tournament. We had Andrew work with us, and we had made a game plan based on the majors and minors. We knew where we wanted to be at what time, and then we were going to, we high sped first thing. Then we switched up, and we went and fished some spots, meat fishing, and then we had a plan to be at a certain spot for the minor. And I promise you, we were running 24 knots, 24 miles an hour, not knots, 24 miles an hour, had one bait out long while we were making the move, and that rod went off like a shotgun. And before Andrew could get the rod down, it went limp. Well, he's over there feeding. I'm running 22. I backed down to 22. He's over there feeding a high-speed lure in and picks the weight up and drops the weight in the water. And as soon as it hit the water, it took off 22 miles an hour. And we were making a move, and that was during the minor. Now, we had not had a bite for 2.5 hours. The minor started within 20 minutes of that, and we had 2 bites just like that. Whether we were on fish at the other spot and just in that 6 miles we, came across those 2 fish side by side, or whether they were the same amount of fish at the other spot, they just decided to feed when that moon got right. I don't know.
So what app are you looking at?
That's what I was going to tell you, and this is, a good big shout out to our friends at DNR. The new Go Outdoors SC app is incredible. If you don't have it yet, if you get a ticket for not having a license, it's your own fault. GoOutdoorsSC.com, Go Outdoors SC app. Download it, put it on your phone, plug in your information, your license information, and then all my licenses are here. Like I can go under my name. I can put all my family in it, and I can go under it and there. I've got all my licenses. I've already paid for how long they're good for. But then if you go to the digital backpack in here, then it comes up with your sunset, sunrises, all your feeding times, tides throughout South Carolina, the forecast for the seas, and then a hunter's toolbox. I don't know what that is, but I'll worry about that in a couple weeks.
So where do you go to for your majors and your minors there?
I go right to
feeding times. Feeding
times, yep.
Okay.
And it'll come up. And here's the other thing that comes up that's really cool on there. Is we were just talking about it. So we just came out of new moon, right? You am I right? Yeah. So you're talking today was a 4-star day. Tomorrow's a 4-star. I'm guessing it goes down. Look, 3.
No, we just came out of a full
2,
moon.
We came out of a full moon. That's right. So we're 2 days after or 3 days after. So you got
4 days now. Yeah.
4 stars, and then now it goes 3. The 19th is 3 stars. The 20th is 2. So as you get away from the full moon, it'll get back. And then all of a sudden it starts going the other way.
All right. So hang on a minute. So what's the theory on this is what?
The theory on this is this. For some reason, that moon effect on their feeding needs, I don't know, the biological needs, when it is at that perfect position for the major or minor is when they want to eat harder. I was told, and this goes to hunting, I was told if you're at your house and you see squirrels in your yard feeding, get up and go get in your deer stand. That you can go off of squirrels. But I
feel like the squirrels are always eating my corn.
I know they're always eating everything. I know.
I should be in the deer stand all the time.
Hey, you think it matters with hogs on the major or minor?
No, well,
no, but
or raccoons for that matter.
But they you get typically on some good days, and this is where like we strategized for that camo tournament. Our days that we fished based on trying to get 2 majors. Or at least a major and a minor inside of the fishing hours that we could fish.
So this doesn't matter where it is because it's based on the moon.
This is going to be based on South Carolina overall in general.
Well, as long as it's in the northern hemisphere,
you're in the
moon's going to be.
Exactly.
Right. So it doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter, I guess, whether you're inshore or offshore.
Offshore.
Right. And you're literally basing your plans of fishing around these majors and minors.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I mean, I've been around fishing my whole life, and this year is the first time I've ever really heard anybody paying attention. Now, I mean, we've always talked about moon phases, right? I mean, like we were just talking about Wahoo earlier.
Yep.
I've always heard you fish 3 days before and 3 days after the full moon. New moons are new to me, and I'm gonna try that. But I mean, I guess it's sort of the same theory, just more precise.
It is, and Danny Carey, Captain Danny Carey. It was the first one that really got me tied. I did a TV show with him 7 years ago, and beautiful flat day. We were scheduled to go, and because of the majors and minors, he wanted to wait a week, so we had to wait a week. So my guest that was coming is a chef at the inn at the Crossroads in Lake City, and we had to wait a week. Beautiful flat ocean. So we ended up going 4 foot, 5 seconds. Got our brains beat in, but guess what? We caught 7 Wahoo. Caught 7 Wahoo and some nice ones. But Danny introduced me to it and really had me turned on to it. Prior to that, I thought about it. I fished with Buddy Hucks before, king mackerel fishing, and he's really big on it. And then I started noticing and paying attention to a lot of the ways the real good king mackerel fishermen fish is their plans or their travel is based around the major and the minor. Like if they're going to make these long runs, they make sure they're somewhere that they're fishing during a minor or a major. So I pay attention to it. I think it's worth it. And it's pretty simple. If you download that app, go outdoors, and of course our listeners from all over, download the app. I don't care where you're at. If you need the app, you use it. But go outdoors, SC. Go outdoors, SC, and use the app.
All right, Adam. Let's talk about tactics for a minute. Are you a planer fisherman?
I am.
Okay. More so than trolling weights, or in coordination with trolling weights, or what?
In coordination with trolling.
Okay. So when you're planer fishing, are you bridle planer fishing?
Yes.
All right. So
Is there any other way?
Hey, right.
Nowadays, not right. I mean, so no.
Who wants to hand line 70
No.
yards of line?
Sometimes I'll put, I run one off the transom, like, with the 32 planers I normally run. I'll put that off the cleat there.
And use a rubber band to run it down or something to, yep.
And I'll put a release clip at the bottom as well. That way I can run 3 lines off the rear cleat.
All right, so you're running.
That's smart.
Talk to me about your spread. Like, what's your spread look like? How many lines are you running off the boat?
I'm running high-speed trolling. I'm running 4 lines.
Oh, wow.
High-speed trolling. You're high-speed trolling with planers.
No, high-speed. When I'm high-speed trolling, I'm running trolling weights.
Yeah.
And I'm running 2 tag lines. So
I was going to ask you how you get that much drag.
Yeah.
I can't figure out how you got that much drag with planers. All right, so that makes more sense. All right, so but talking to me regular now, slow trolling, and we'll get to I want to get to high speed, but let's hold that for a second. Slow trolling, which to me for Wahoo is like 8 to 10 knots, on average, I guess. Some people troll at 6 or 7, some people troll at 10 or 12, but for me, anywhere 8 to 10 is the regular trolling speed for Wahoo. With
Same.
Same. All right, so you're pulling. What are you pulling when you're regular slow trolling for Wahoo?
I'm pulling 2 flat lines.
2 flats.
Outside 2 flats, and then I'm running and 2 planers. So I'm running a 32 and a number 8.
Okay.
A
You
32.
answered my question on that. Yep.
You're running so 4 lines total, slow trolling for Wahoo.
Yep.
A 32 and an 8.
Yep.
Okay. What are trailing behind your planers usually?
Mullet.
Okay. Mullet.
Split tail mullet.
There you go. There you go.
Caught out of Mountain Gilead Creek.
Are you cutting your own split tails?
Are you rigging them all yourself?
Yeah.
I heard you knew how to
Catch
do
them
it.
behind the house and
Good for you.
rig them up.
Good for you.
That is smart.
Yeah, I have not ever. I mean, I've seen them, and I've heard of a lot of people having success with them. Never used them in this context. Used them down in Florida before, but never used them in this context.
And you can order them. By the way, you can order them rigged.
Yeah,
They'll come on wire and everything.
Yeah, it's like the ones in Florida. They're the silver mullet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But
What do they call those? Jughead. What do they call those mullet that are split tailed? Jethead, split tail mullet. The ones that Buster. What's the
Bouncer.
Name? Bounce.
I can't remember what he called them.
They actually cut their head. They'll shave
the head.
They'll shave the head out.
Sharper. Make it travel through the water better.
And that's where the mullet here, we get here, they're not as, they don't swim as well.
No,
They got that big rounded head, that big
Big
rounded
head.
face.
So I'll match them up on a heavy lure.
All right, so what's that look like? Are you so what size mullet are you catching?
About 6 to 8 inch.
All right, 6 to 8 inches is the right ticket for you.
Yep.
All right, you're split tailing them. You're running them with what, like a black and purple skirt, the traditional Wahoo,
Yep, red and black,
red and black,
blue and white,
blue and white.
yeah,
out deep.
yep.
I run, my close one red and white, or no, red and black.
You ever go naked?
32. I do.
I tell you that we had success on the split tail naked.
Are you double hooking or are you single hooking? You double hooking.
I actually get the vise and vise them together.
Okay.
Do you? Okay.
All right, so you're not running a stinger or anything. You're vicing 2 hooks together.
Yep, and it's all hidden inside of the mullet.
See, I got to check that rig out and what it looks like.
They look awesome.
You don't.
They look awesome. They do look awesome.
Can I buy them from you?
I'll give you some.
I need to.
Depends on which tournament.
I need to see. I need to see what these things look like. It sounds like they're professionally done.
Man, they've saved me though.
All on wire, I assume, right?
Yeah, all on wire.
Are you doing braided wire or single strand?
Single strand.
What size single strand wire?
Number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10, single strand wire, split tailed mullet behind like an Islander or a Sea Witch.
Yep.
Does it matter?
I like the Islanders.
Because they got a heavier head.
Yeah.
Okay, behind an Islander, and you put
Sea Witches on the flat. They're great too.
Yep.
Sea Witches are.
Sea Witches are doing. We've done great with them. You just got to make sure you got that protector on there to keep from get cut off. But
yeah. So you're waiting underneath the chin of the
I am.
mullet?
I'll use a 1 ounce.
You're putting a 1 ounce egg sinker underneath the chin of the mullet.
Yep. Fits right inside there.
I think you got to watch out with the mullet, and from what I've seen, and even with ballyhoo, but you got to watch out and make sure you pick the right weight for the size fish, because if I think if you go too heavy,
That's it.
you get that.
You got to match them.
You got to match them.
Hook size hooks too. Some mullet I'll run a single, but you got to run the long shank hooks.
Yep.
Just the short. They just.
Yeah, you can make some money on them split tail mullet. By the way, I know a lot of people that buy them from you.
You don't ever use you don't try to match a big mullet for
Oh,
a big Wahoo. Or you do. You'll put a big mullet out every now and then. Big row mullet.
Yeah.
And do you think that the size of the mullet affects the size of the fish?
Yes.
That eats it? Really? So you put a big, giant 3-pound row mullet, and you're expecting to get a big Wahoo.
If it gets hit, it's going to be the man.
A bigger bait, faster.
A bigger bait faster.
Faster.
So high speed in a big mullet like that? That you don't.
I can run about. I'll run those split tails. I'll run about 11 knots.
Okay.
Yeah, so
12
on the higher end of normal.
On the higher end
Yeah.
of normal speed, you're not running them 18 knots. They'll start spinning and kinking and all that. Yeah, I've never had success running meat up, trying to run meat up 18 knots. It seems like they always blow out, or they spin out, or they kink the wire. Or you got to run those high speed lures nowadays if you're gonna do that. But I like fishing with meat better than I do fishing with those high-speed lures. It's nice to fish with the high-speed lures because it's easy. You just toss the dang thing out and let it go. But I never feel like it's as successful. It's almost like you just ran past one and snagged him in the side. You know, I mean, I know that's not true, but that's the way I feel. Like it's not fishing; you're just snagging fish. And then by the time you get him to the boat, the fish is dead because you've drowned him. I shouldn't be down on high speed because we're about to talk to high speed. Tell me why high speed is good.
Hey, I want to finish one thing. So you're saying that you're using 2 planers. So one is on is cleated on the transom cleat. The other is on a planer rod.
Yep.
Okay. And what was the other thing I was going to ask you? Okay, so you're typically in a regular spread. 4 of your rods will be for Wahoo. Is that okay?
All right. The one on the transom, obviously. Direct tied to the transom, so there's no way to bridle that or anything. You have to have a shock leader with it, what I call a shock leader. Some people just how much leader are you running behind that planer?
Behind the planer, about 150 feet.
150 feet of 150-pound mono?
80 pound.
80-pound. All right, so
Yep.
lightweight, going light. All right, and what goes behind? So behind your planer is the same thing, fishing the same stuff on all the spread.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, split-tailed mullet behind, with a skirt black and white or red and white or blue and white. All right, so you got one hook to the planer, one planer hooked to the transom, one planer hooked to a rod. That planer that's on the rod is bridle rigged.
Yes.
All right, for those of you listening who don't know what bridle rig is, that's the new-ish way of running a planer where you've got a piece of Dacron in the middle, spliced in the middle between your line, where you can hook one side of the planer and then hook the other side of the planer, and you can wind that Dacron, where you can take that planer right off just by unclipping and wind the Dacron onto
The reel.
so that you don't have to fight a fish by hand. You can just fight him all the way to the rod tip, the leader all the way to the rod tip.
Same with trolling weights too. Flip your trolling weights on your bridle.
Yeah, you can. That's right. I forgot about that. Now that I got a friend who told me where I can find some bridles for a fair price.
Yeah, so I found a bunch of bridles for like $19, and they work fine until the fish cuts them off, which happened to me this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lost. I guess the Wahoo hit the planer. I mean, it was clear we got a fish. I mean, the rod says and bent over and then boop.
Yep.
And I thought, well, he cut us off, and I pulled him in, and he cut us off above the planer. So I guess he saw the planer flash, and then he hit the planer, and it.
My planers are all black.
Yeah, well, that's
I don't
good.
think it makes a difference, really. I mean, they love black too, but my planers are all painted black.
Yeah. Well, he definitely cut us off at the planer, and I lost the planer, the Dacron.
Hang on, let me get my cash register out.
Yeah.
Hang on.
The planer, which is one of those big planers. I don't remember. It was like a number 12 or something big. The planer, the Dacron, the leader, it was one of those giant, what are they called? The giant high-speed lures that they're selling nowadays. What's the
Dinner bell, cowbell.
it wasn't a cowbell. It was the one, the Tagahoo, the big Tagahoo with the flopper in the back. Looks like a bass rig almost.
I don't know.
You don't know what it's called? I think it's called I think it's a Tagahoo.
don't know.
Maybe Williamson sells them.
You need to send me a picture of it.
Anyway, it was at least $120 lost.
Oh, yeah.
Right down.
I'll say, when you walk into a store and start looking, I mean, this is, I know we're getting ready to go to high speed, but for the man that's faint of heart and scared to spend money on tackle, if you're going to you probably don't even want to explore high speed trolling.
No, you don't.
You don't.
No, especially talking about cutoffs.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about Wahoo fishing? I mean, they cut you off, you break off. It's just stuff happens.
Hooks straightening.
Yeah, I mean, stuff happens. Crimps come undone. I mean, there's just lots of pressures and lots of stuff happens. And
you can't slow down high speeding. You can't slow down with the fish on, because when you do slow down, you're 90% of the time you've already created a huge
it's a
hole
huge
in his
gaping
mouth.
hole.
And that Wahoo loves to do this, we all know. So he does that and gets turned sideways in the least bit where that hook just goes.
Dude, yesterday.
You just watch him swim off.
Yesterday, same thing. We caught that fish 9 or 10 knots, not super high speed. And I backed off to like 7.5, 7 knots. You got to slow down. We're not getting anything on this. I said, I'm not slowing down. Y'all got to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm not slowing down. I started, I gave them a little bit, turning a little bit, making that big wide arc for them so they could get a little bit on the fish. Finally got the fish in the boat. He had made a hole in the side of his cheek that was bigger than a dime. And that, the hook could just.
As soon as you got it in the boat, the hook just went.
Yeah, it just flops right out of the fish.
Out.
And I said, that's why you don't slow down on a Wahoo.
Yep.
Every time my buddies say slow down, the 3 times, I'd say 3 or 4 times they told me slow down, we lost those fish.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't do it.
So I stay up, and the slowest I'll go, 7, 8 knots.
Yeah.
We took turns. We ended up having to take turns on the one fish we had, because what had happened is he had the double hook system, And when he first hit it, he got both hooks in him. And so he had one in the mouth and one on the side of the head. So we were pulling him this way. And that was at 22 miles an hour, dude. So we're over there, and Andrew Work, who's in great shape. Lucas, who's in great shape. They're all over there. All right, your turn. And we're like tagging out on this fish that we thought, and Andrew, who's caught a lot of big wahoo, was like, dude, this is a big fish. And then even when we got him on top, he looked big from, they'll surprise you at how big they are when they get up. And we were just taking turns, cranking on him, taking turns. And then when he got in the boat, we realized that we had him a little bit, just that little bit hooked back in the head that gave him that much drag.
You all had the 100-pounder.
We did. Oh, Andrew was like, I give him a lot of props because he has done a lot more high-speed trolling than Lucas or I have done. And when he said it, after that fish hit, of course, we were as the speed that we were going also was another factor that he felt like it was a big fish. That he just said, all right, we cannot slow down. Y'all, we're just going to have to take turns. And I did 13 knots was the slowest. 13 miles an hour was the slowest I got to.
The other problem with Wahoo is, as far as slowing down goes, if he's not dead by the time he makes it to the boat, a Wahoo sometimes will swim upstream of the boat. They'll
go past you.
They'll swim up to the bow when you're getting them close to the hook, and the gaff starts going out the boat. That Wahoo will swim towards the bow, and most of the time you've got outriggers out, and so the rod can't go around the outrigger fast enough to get to the bow, and you end up creating a problem if somebody's not on the stick, ready to go. Ready to get back ahead of that fish again. So you got to keep moving. You put that boat in neutral or at 2 or 3 knots. That fish is going to skyrocket to the bow. Not always, but sometimes it does happen. Big one will do it.
Let's come right to the boat.
Yep. Let's talk the high speed stuff and let's talk about the same ideas we did on the meat fishing. What's your setup on high speed trolling? You said 4 rods.
Yep.
How do you set them up? I'm guessing you go 32, 48 ounce. You change your leads.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you set those up in the spread? Because here's one thing a lot of people don't understand is when you put that shock leader on there, and that trolling lead, if you don't have them staggered correctly, when you make any turns at all, your lines can get into each other. And when you start getting that gom going on, you're in trouble. So you space it, or you try to put certain leads on one side. Or
I have every rod and reel assigned.
There you go.
I know exactly how many feet are on that. So I have each one have a piece of tape on it. It says this one's 250, this one's 3. So that way anyone on the boat could let it out and have a mark on there with some with the wax with the thread there. To that way everyone knows when to stop it.
Well, that's a great idea. So, other than you don't get greedy and try to ever put out 5 or 6 lines either, right? When I asked you, you didn't say 4 or 5. You said 4, right? My answer would have been 4 or 5, which gets me in trouble, right? Because sometimes you get a little bit into it and you get greedy, and 30 minutes into the troll, you're like, we can squeeze another one in.
We squeeze one more.
And you squeeze one in, and then you got a freaking gum like crazy.
Then you get to a school or something, and you just catch, I don't know.
Right. So you've got 4 lines out. Each one of them's assigned. You got a wax thread or a sticker or something. When that line gets to the right appropriate length, it pops up. Everybody knows to stop it.
Yep.
I think that's a great idea.
That way, say the fish keeps hitting on this 32 ounce at 250 back.
Let
me go put another 32 ounce on the other side, 150. Let's stay on that same depth there.
Yep. How important is wire in your high speed setup? And I should ask that question.
I don't run no cable.
No cable.
How about that?
Speed.
I've lost one fish with that.
Yeah. So and I hear this too. that's.
We're going fast.
You're going fast.
There's only one way they can.
Different.
There's only one way they can hit it. If you think about
it, they're gonna go straight onto it.
Yep,
they're on it from behind.
Right.
The fish, the 84. It was all pink, white, Islander, fluoro. He about got it. I was about a half inch to an inch from catching that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
and it would have been done.
Ooh, yeah, you do take a
So-
chance, but man, you make a big difference when you take that wire out of the equation as far as what they can see.
Oh, it's a ton. I think it's a ton of difference. And I would imagine, I mean, your hookup ratio probably doubles right off the bat if you're switching over to fluoro off of wire. You're running fluoro. Yeah. What size fluoro are you running?
150.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, your hookup ratio is going to double right off the bat, and if you're not losing any fish, then what's the problem? Are you running the big high speed lures, or are you running stuff that you're making?
I'm running a lot of big lures. Islanders. We'll rig those, put a skirt on them.
With meat.
Yep.
We're back to talking about high speed again, though, right? I mean, when I say high speed, I'm sorry, we need to classify what high speed. To me, high speed means like over 15 knots.
Yep.
All right, so high speed, you are running some meat.
I am.
Okay, what meat are you running on high
There's
speed?
mullet.
Same mullet. Okay, same way behind Islander or something like an Islander.
Yep. I'm guessing if you put something, the bigger you put in front of it,
Bigger,
the more,
yeah.
it's
Put a skirt
gonna-
over his head.
Yep,
They're
exactly.
getting the tail.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
What's your favorite artificial to pull for Wahoo? Do you pull artificials? I mean, okay, yeah, Nomad, plugs, any of that stuff like that. I mean, do you pull any of those?
Bonita plugs, the big Yozuris.
Cedar plug.
Yep.
So you like cedar plugs?
I do.
Me too.
I do. You know, it's crazy. I've never the Bonitas, the Ozuri. Haven't caught the first walleye on it.
Me neither.
Some people swear by it.
Yep.
I've had success with them in the past.
Because I'm rigging it wrong, or
Lucas brought two diving plugs made by a different company, not the same ones, and we pulled them no weights, no nothing, high speed. They're designed for it. And believe it or not, we didn't catch any wahoo on it, but we caught 2 tuna at 16 miles an hour.
that's another. Yeah, that's another thing. We always have our, in our kingfish holders there on the boat. We always pull these micro, like the small black barts or whatever.
Yeah.
And as we're high speed trolling, we're picking up tuna. We're picking up,
Wow. So you are pulling some smaller stuff.
on.
That's smart. That's good. I wouldn't.
We just randomly started doing it one day and started getting all, hooking up with blackfin and
Yeah.
going fast. So
high speed became popular. Not here. It became popular in Hawaii or either in the Bahamas. Where one of the two. I can't.
I think the Bahamas.
I do too.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was because of covering the area or if it was because of the fish. Huh?
I think covering a bunch of ground.
So do you use high speed to find the fish and then slow everything down, change tactics, or what do you do?
So, whenever they stop biting, that's when I'll switch it up. But when I'm high speed and I keep connecting,
You just keep
I
doing what you're
going
doing.
because eventually that bigger fish is gonna come up.
Yeah.
It might take you 4 to 5, a few small fish, but if you'll realize you'll go from a 20 to 30, and then you'll start going to a 40, and then you maybe get so. I think that there's a big one there, but he's hanging out low, and he's eventually going to come up and feed if you keep pounding the same area.
I'm high speed. Just to me, I don't know. That last trip that I had with Lucas and Andrew, I said I'm sold on it. I hated it, adamantly against it. I mean, we got home with 5 gallons of gas in the boat that day.
Yeah, you'll burn some gas.
We got home with 5 gallons of gas.
Well, especially if you're in that speed, like my boat. I realize my boat wants to plane off like really badly. Wants to plane off when you get up to like 16, 17 miles an hour. It starts to
Want to.
and once it goes, it won't slow down beyond about 25.
So then you're doing this the whole time.
So it's in that spot. That high speed trolling's in that spot where you got that problem the whole time. For me in my boat. I'm sure it's not like that in other people's boats, but I can do about 16 before it wants to just get up and go.
Do you use the trim tabs a lot when you're high speeding?
Not really. I don't.
Okay, I didn't know because I did find on Lucas's that for me to get, because I was having to do the same thing he's talking about. Like it wanted to plane off. Once I got up that certain speed, it really wanted to plane off, and then I was like, no, I don't want to get quite there, so I could put the trim tabs down and push the bow down, and it made it run heavier. And so I was able to run like 17 to 19 and not have to worry about it jumping up on plane. But I used the trim tabs, and it worked great.
And you burn up some fuel that way.
Dude, I mean, it cost us – I don't want to say it cost us a tournament, but it cost us a tournament because after we caught that Wahoo, we looked at going to Charleston, just driving to go weigh it in.
Lost weight.
And we looked, and we're like, fuel, we ain't got it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we were worried that we didn't have enough to get to Charleston. And so we were like, well, let's just troll for another hour, and then let's go home. And turns out 9 ounces what we lost overnight, and that we lost by 4 ounces.
Yeah, and you'll lose 9 ounces overnight.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Do you normally weigh your fish the next day in these tournaments, these out-of-town tournaments? Do you weigh them the next day, or you try to weigh that day?
Try to weigh that day.
Okay. Yeah.
if it's close, it makes a difference. If it's close,
Yeah.
I mean, those fish will dry out for sure.
Yeah, I know a mutual friend of ours who did well in the last one. I know he likes to weigh that day. He likes to go weigh the fish the day he fishes.
It cost in the Wahoo tournament. It cost the guy a place because they said he was out there showing his fish off, and they showing everybody, and they say it lost almost a pound.
Oh, because he had it coming out the
They
ice.
said if he wouldn't have done that, he would have.
Well, you know, I mean, you used to be able to brine your fish box back in the olden days.
Yep.
Yeah, you caught a big fish and you could brine your fish box and try to keep him where he was. But the last tournament we fished, it said you couldn't brine your fish box anymore. I'm like, ooh, why not? It's not like he's gaining any weight.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be losing weight.
Well, Lucas and I checked. We texted Lloyd from Charleston Harbor Resort Marina. By the way, if ever get a chance to fish in any of their tournaments, they do a first-class job down there. But we did text Lloyd and ask we could do anything we wanted to do except put anything inside the fish. In other words, and we could have brined the fish or done whatever, but we didn't.
But that does help, though. I mean, if you just take a bucket of salt water from the ocean and you put it in the fish box with the ice and you slush it up real well, that helps a lot.
Yep.
That helps a lot. And
We ended up working against ourselves, though. What happened is, Lucas, our Wahoo was at the bottom of the fish bag, and we weren't using a single fish bag. We were using a bigger, fully enclosed fish bag. The Wahoo was at the bottom, and then and our mindset was keep it as cold as you can. So put all the ice on it. So then he shoved all the ice on top of that fish, packed it in, and then put the tuna in and the dolphin in that we had, and then packed them down. So all that weight went down on this Wahoo that we had drug at 17 knots behind the boat, who had all that water pushed into his body. And then when you put that on there overnight, it just squished that extra
squeezed him
weight out. So
squeezed all that water weight out.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. Well, that's a topic for another
Absolutely.
podcast. How to keep fish from losing weight.
Yes, it is. Favorite time of the year to target Wahoo?
October.
Yeah, me too.
Yep, that's two of y'all.
Me too.
I would say the fall, I enjoy it much better, too. I am not a 29, 30-degree morning guy. Of course, if I did have my own offshore boat, I would have to call Brown's Canvas and have him come make me some curtains that would go right around. I think they call it a phone booth cover or and have you build up something really big around the outside to keep me nice and the gold wings,
man.
Keep those wings, keep me nice and dry and warm back there.
Yeah, I'm going to do some sword fishing in the winter this year, and I'm gonna end up having to talk to you about some wings on that boat, unless Lucas wants to buy the boat from me. Lucas, if you're listening.
Oh, he'll be listening at some point, I can promise you. It might be tonight or tomorrow, but he'll be listening to this podcast.
Every week that boat sits in my driveway, it's worth more and more money.
Oh, I know, and everything you keep adding to it.
Everything I keep adding to it. Lucas, that is a warning, buddy. It's a warning.
Yeah, exactly.
It's getting more and more expensive by the week.
The best thing that could happen for Lucas is for the Senate to go back into session soon.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't have enough on his plate right now. He's got to get busy.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know we're getting here at the end of the hour, and it's been a great discussion, Adam. Thank you so much. Last minute gave you a call today, and you came over. And, folks, if you want to get in touch with Adam, he's got a Facebook page, Brown's Custom Canvas. That's the best way to get in touch with you. All his contact information will be there if you're in the Carolinas, and he's getting ready to leave to go to Charleston right now. He's on his way to Charleston to go put some canvas on a boat down there. But he works up and down the East Coast here. Give him a call, and man, I look forward to one day getting to fish with you.
I'm ready.
I did invite you, and Stephen invited me to go yesterday, but one of us has to work. Yeah. I had to go to work. Exactly. He went to fishing, but he didn't even save me any fish either. So, but yeah, you know, any parting words there, Senator?
No, thank you. Hey, what's the secret tip? You got to give us a secret tip here at the end.
You got one tip?
Yeah, one secret tip. Wahoo.
I think he already gave it, and if anybody didn't pick it up, then that's their own problem. But I think he already gave one big tip that you picked up on and you actually started talking about. But I think the one big tip was split tail mullet. But I'm not speaking for you. I'm just saying I think that's something a lot of us overlook. Horse ballyhoo. Let's get a horse ballyhoo.
No, always keep switching it up. Always.
Yeah, I like that. I'm big on that too. If you don't get a bite in 30 minutes, switch stuff up. Switch, even if it's one at a time. Switch it up. I am totally sold on that tip.
Everything.
And don't wear underwear. If you're wearing underwear, you're missing the boat.
All right. Yeah. That's another great tip, folks. Russ, if you're listening, Mr. Steven just said that it's okay not to wear underwear. All right. Anyway, that's good luck. All right, folks. Well, listen, it's been another great, exciting episode of Trilogy Outdoors where we talk everything fins, fur, and feathers. But don't forget about our other wonderful brands. Trilogy Outdoors magazine on the racks now. Go check it out. Go grab one. Go online to TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And make sure you click the subscribe button right there. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us and tune in. Or you can go to iHeart.com and listen to Southern Anglers Radio Show every Saturday morning from 8 to 10. But as for us, we're going to load up and get on out of here. And Mr. Adams is going to go to Charleston, and I'm going to go home and cook dinner. The wife's got to go out of town for work tomorrow. But tune in next week for another exciting episode of Trilogy Outdoors.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, don't forget our other brands, Southern Anglers Radio Show and Walk 'em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.